Hi there, I'm Nancy Herring from Now We're Cooking. It's Tuesday, so it's time for tips, tricks, and treats. And today I'm making biscuits, just basic biscuits. And I'm gonna talk and do because I need to get this started. What's in my bowl right now is 2 cups of flour. I need a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of salt. And then I need a tablespoon of baking powder. So there's my salt. Baking powder, and put that in. So the flour mixtures, the dry mixture is pretty basic. And I want to stir that together just to blend the baking powder mostly. And then I'm going to cut in butter. And this, we're going to talk while I cut in butter. It takes a stick of butter, which is 8 tablespoons. Some recipes call for butter and shortening. There's lots of options. And I've cut it into cubes. I didn't do super small, but they're in cubes. You want your butter to be cold because you don't want to cream the butter and the flour mixture. You just want to, they always say, make it look like cornmeal. Well, what you want to do is you want to break down that butter into smaller little teeny pieces. And for me, it just takes me a while to do this. Some people do 2 forks. Some people do 2 knives. I prefer a pastry blender. That's what this is called, is a pastry blender. Some people call it a pie dough maker because it's what you do with pie dough as well. But you just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until your butter is small little pieces. I'm going to use my hands in a minute because I can feel the butter better and sort of rub the butter with my hands as opposed to with the pastry blender. It's okay if you have little teeny pieces of butter because that's what makes your biscuits flaky. When the butter and the oven heat come together, it causes the water in the butter to evaporate, which pushes the dough up a little bit, and that's how you get a flakier biscuit. So that's a very scientific way to say that. So I'm just gonna keep doing this. A lot of people are biscuit and gravy for breakfast people. That's not high on my list of treats, but as it becomes cooler, and even though it's still 85 or 88 today, it feels a little cooler. I like to make a lot of soups, and biscuits are a really easy, nice bread to serve with a soup or a stew. And it's nice because you can also make them, eat them all up, and there's no leftovers, so you don't have to worry about what am I going to do with the rest of that. So this is getting pretty well done. The next ingredient is 3/4 of a cup of milk. And you may or may not need all the milk, so I'm not going to pour it all in. I'm going to pour most of it in, do a lot of stirring. You can see there's little teeny bits of butter still. To me, it does not look like cornmeal, but I'll work with it. So a little bit more. You just don't want to beat it. You don't want to use a mixer because that would cream that butter, and that's not what you're looking for. And if your grandma had her favorite biscuit method, by all means use that. This is just a pretty easy way to do it. So it all feels pretty well together. Still little pieces, but that's all right. I'm going to add most of the milk, and I'm going to use a fork, and then in a minute I'll use a scraper, and then I'll probably use my hands as well. This is a get involved with your food type recipe. So what I want to do is mix get all the flour into the dough. If it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, I've got more milk to add in. If you put all the milk in and you don't need it, you can't take it out. That's why it's put a bit, stir, put a bit, stir. Now, these are going to be plain biscuits that you can put jelly on or butter or make little teeny ham and cheese sandwiches. You can also add all kinds of things to this. I made some chili cheese ones earlier where I just added grated cheddar cheese and some green chili. You could put all kinds of herbs. You could snip your rosemary, put it in here. You could put green onions in it. You could put everything bagel seasoning on it. I mean, the sky's the limit. So don't be afraid to say, wow, that sounds really good. I wouldn't do much sweet in here because if you want sweet, then you make a scone, which is basically the same technique. The dough just usually has more sugar in it. So as you can see, I'm throwing some pieces out, but it's forming together, and I don't think I'm gonna need any more milk. So what I wanna do, oh, move that. What I wanna do is gather all this together. It's a little bit shaggy. Now, the purists often say the less you handle the dough, the flakier it will be. So again, practice, see what you think. I have a friend who's British and does scones, and she won't re-roll her dough more than twice because she says it lessens the quality of the dough. What I'm gonna do, and when they're ready to go, you can, I don't have the cast iron skillet the right size, but this is a 10-inch Le Creuset buffet casserole, which I'm gonna use like a skillet. A lot of Southern recipes say to do them in a cast iron skillet. You can do it in a 9x13 pan. You could do it in 2 round cake pans. And the other thing that's entirely up to you is how thick do you want them and how big a diameter do you want them. I've been using a cookie cutter like this, which is about a 2.5. If you wanted teeny tiny little bite-sized ones, you could use a small one. Bigger to me is not better in this. I'd rather have 2 small ones than 1 big, but play around with it and see. So I've got my dough about where I want it. It's about maybe 3/4 of an inch. The other thing you'll hear is to not twist your cookie cutter, because some people feel that twisting your cookie cutter sort of crimps the edges and doesn't let it grow as much. I don't know. I haven't made enough biscuits to test some of those theories. I've just read a lot of people's opinions on what they do. That one's gonna show some cracks when it's baked, but I don't mind about that either. So I wanna get them all in here. They're gonna bake for about 12 minutes or so at a super hot oven. I think 425 is what it says. And that, again, allows that heat to help the butter evaporate, the water in the butter evaporate, and make your scones that much taller. I'm not really re-rolling this. I'm just kind of patting this together so I can inch out a couple more. And if there's any left over, I'm just pitching it. I'm not gonna try and do anything with it. The closer I put them together, it will force them to rise up instead of out. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna probably get 2 more out of this. Let's just see. And in order to give it even a prettier color on the top and even 1 more burst of flavor, brushing melted butter on the top is a great thing to do. So I'm gonna squeeze 1 more in here. Some people roll out their dough in a rectangle and use a knife and cut it into squares, and that's a whole nother way to do it that's easy. And especially if you were doing sandwiches or something. Okay, you wait, I've got 1 more little blob of dough. I'm gonna get it there in the middle. And I'm not even gonna cut it or roll it. It's gonna be not the prettiest biscuit when it's baked, but it will taste delish. So I'm gonna squeeze that in there. And now I've melted some butter. I've got a silicone pastry brush, and I just wanna brush some butter across the top. If you wanted to put everything bagel seasoning on them right now, this would be the time to do it. If you wanted to put sesame seeds or poppy, anything like that on it, I'm gonna do them plain because chances are we're going to split them and put meat and cheese and make little sandwiches. So they're ready to go. I'm gonna pop them in the oven. Then I'm gonna show you. And they say 10 to 12 minutes, and it's taken me probably 12 to 14 the last couple times I've done them. So, flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, milk, butter. I mean, it's really basic ingredients that turn out just delish. So, finished product. I had some people eating them today, so I don't have as many as I started with. The plain biscuits look like this. And when you split them, you can see some flaky layers in there, and oh my gosh, they're great. And then, I was telling you we did chili and cheese. I used a smaller skillet. So the same recipe made a smaller skillet and a 9-inch cake pan. These, we put cheddar cheese, you can see a little cheddar cheese on the edge, and I put some green chili. And then I brushed them with butter again. And that just adds one more element of flavor, really tasty. And all I could think about was, boy, I want a big bowl of bean soup and a cheddar cheese biscuit, and I'd be good to go. So, brown on the bottom, brown on the top. I'll split this one. This is one of my not as pretty ones, but you can see some layers of cheese in there. I didn't put a lot of chili, because I wasn't sure how hot I wanted them to be. But I would encourage you to try biscuits. If you want to do gravy, it's a sausage gravy that's traditional, which is a white gravy, so it's just butter and flour and milk. The sausage adds the fat, and then make a white gravy. Split them, pour it over them, and serve them for breakfast. I would rather have them savory with dinner. So I would encourage you to make some biscuits. I bet you have all the ingredients at home, and I bet you have most of the equipment that you need. So Now We're Cooking is at Paseo in Wyoming. We're open Monday through Saturday, 11 to 4. We're starting to put out, even though it's still almost 90 degrees in Albuquerque, a lot of our fall items are going out. We've done some rearranging in the store. So if you haven't been in a while, please come by and see what's new and see how we've changed things, and also make some biscuits. Thank you so much for watching. We'll look to see you next time. Bye now.